Have you ever stopped to think about what actually makes a promise, well, a real promise in the eyes of the law? I mean, is just saying "I promise" enough? We're about to dive into a fascinating legal puzzle from way back in the 19th century that really gets to the core of this whole thing. Let's figure out what the true price of a promise really is.
Okay, let's make this personal. Picture this. A year ago, you did a friend a massive favor. You gave up your entire Saturday, you lifted heavy boxes, you helped them move. Today, completely out of the blue, your friend says, "You know what? That was so amazing of you. I promise I'm going to give you $100 for that." Now, my question to you is, if they flake on that promise, could you actually take them to court for it? Keep that scenario in your head, because the legal answer is probably not what you're expecting.
All right, to get to the bottom of our modern-day moving problem, we've got to jump in a time machine. We're heading back to 1840s England, and we're looking at a case called Eastwood versus Kenyon. It's a story about a guardian, a young woman, and a promise that would go on to shape a huge rule in contract law.
So first up, let's meet Mr. Eastwood. This guy was the guardian for a young girl, and he wasn't just doing the bare minimum. He was a genuinely good guy. He actually spent his own money to raise her, to educate her. A truly generous act, and he wasn't expecting a single penny back.
So, fast forward a few years. The girl grows up and gets married to a Mr. Kenyon. Now, Mr. Kenyon, he's super grateful for everything Eastwood did for his new wife. So he makes a promise. He tells Eastwood he's going to pay him back for all those expenses, all that money he spent on her upbringing. Seems like the decent thing to do, right?
So let's just map this out clearly. First, way back in the past, Eastwood does his good deed. Then, today, Kenyon makes his promise. And then, a little while later, Kenyon goes back on his word. That gap in time, that space between the good deed and the promise, believe it or not, that is the whole key to this case.
So, naturally, Eastwood sued him. I mean, he had a promise, right? But to really get why the court decided what it did, we need to talk about a super important legal idea called consideration. You can kind of think of it as the secret ingredient that turns a simple promise into a real enforceable contract.
So what is consideration? Well, the easiest way to think about it is as the price of the promise. For a contract to be legit, there has to be a bargain, a two-way street. I give you something of value, and you give me something of value in return. It's the this for that part of the deal, and it has to happen as part of the same agreement.
And this is where we hit the big problem for Mr. Eastwood, the concept of past consideration. This is any action or service that was already done before any promise was even whispered. Since it's already in the past, it can't be part of a new bargain. It's not the price for the new promise, it's just history.
And this leads us to the knockout punch. From the court back in 1840, they laid it down in no uncertain terms, saying, the law will not enforce purely past benefits. What they're saying is, a promise that's only based on gratitude for something someone already did for you, that's not a contract.
So the court's final ruling was that everything Eastwood did, spending his money, educating the girl, that was all past consideration. It happened long before Kenyon made his promise. And because of that, Kenyon's promise wasn't part of a deal. It was just an offer of a gift, and you can't sue someone for breaking their promise to give you a gift.
Okay, so what does this all mean for you and your friend who promised you $100 for helping them move? Well, this old case drew a really clear line in the sand, a line that separates what's morally right from what's legally required.
Let's break it down with a simple example. If I say, "Hey, if you mow my lawn, then I will pay you $50. That's a classic bargain. My promise to pay is exchanged for your action. But if I say, "Hey, because you mowed my lawn last week, I'm going to give you $50, that's totally different. The work's already done. My promise now is just a thank you. And in the eyes of the law, it's an unenforceable promise to give a gift.
And this is really the bottom line. The law makes a huge distinction between a moral obligation and a legal one. A moral duty comes from your conscience. A legal duty is something the law can force you to do. So did Kenyon have a moral obligation to pay Eastwood back? Oh yeah, absolutely. Most people would say he should have. But did he have a legal obligation? Thanks to the past consideration rule, the answer was a clear no.
So let's go all the way back to your friend and that $100 for moving. Now you know, their promise, while nice, is legally unenforceable. It's a textbook example of past consideration. It's a powerful reminder that not all promises are created equal, and it all boils down to this one critical question. Is this promise just a nice thank you, or is it a binding contract? Knowing the difference, well, that's everything.